Hello, and welcome to the Steve and Mark Discuss podcast, where Steve talks about a subject, I listen intently, and I react to it, and he may react to my reactions. So, over to Steve.
Hi, people. Well, for this podcast, I wanted to steer clear of geopolitical, war, subjects.
Yes.
It's carnival time here in Brazil.
Mm.
Mango season on the small farm. I got we got a huge tray of mangoes last night. So I'm surprised that my muzzle here isn't all orange because I had a feast of mango for breakfast this morning.
Very nice. Yeah.
That should please the porcelain later on. But anyway, that's another
I was trying
another story.
I was trying not to go there, so to speak.
No.
Yeah.
So what we got for you today? Here we go. Mount Vesuvius erupted in the year 79. In 79 AD, if you like.
Yeah.
And the eruption destroyed Pompeii. Herculaneum, Torre Annunziata. Annunziata, by the way, is Jacob Rees-Mogg's sister's first name.
Oh, yeah.
And a place called Stabile.
Okay.
And all of those villages, if you like, or hamlets, or whatever you like to call them, they were destroyed, and they were being excavated in the 18th century, and it's where they found people, the remains of people, where they died. Most of them gassed by the sulfuric gas. And they found what are now world famous, the Herculaneum scrolls, which are a series of scrolls that were in the library, I believe they were. Which back in them days, the libraries were huge, and as writing was a bit sparse. These only the great intellects, the great philosophers, they write things down on these scrolls, and they put in the library. And these Herculaneum scrolls were burnt and buried by the eruption. And through the power of AI, which is right into your camp, recently, 3 students, one from Egypt, one from the US, and one from Switzerland, were able to start to decipher what was on these scrolls. They were written in ancient Greek. And they'd scan the scrolls because they couldn't open the scrolls because they were so fragile.
Yeah.
So they'd scan the scrolls, and the AI would pick up the ink on the scrolls, and then the AI would sort of automatically open them so it looked like it's on a flat page.
Yeah.
Right. So they managed to decipher 5% of so far. They're expecting to translate 85% still this year.
Yeah.
The author of the scrolls that they have was it's thought to be a guy called Philodemus.
Mm.
Philodemus. He was a philosopher, and he lived in a villa of the father-in-law of Julius Caesar. There you are.
There you go. Family connections. Yeah.
And what is it that was written on the scrolls? That's what we need to find out. As this guy, this Philodemus, is a philosopher.
Mm.
And it says, as too in the case of food, we do not right away believe things that are scarce to be absolutely more pleasant than those which are abundant.
Mm.
What does he mean by that? He means that do we only find pleasure in having something that we can't have?
Mm.
Does he mean that the best things are more difficult to find? And I considering, this is like almost a couple of thousand years ago.
Mm.
I thought the thought was quite profound.
Mm.
That you know, um, for example, if chocolate was in abundance, it was just so cheap.
Yeah.
It's cheaper than, I don't know, a bag of rice.
Mm.
Would we still have the same enjoyment eating chocolate as we would with something like potatoes?
Mm.
Which might be less abundant, as
Yeah.
if the situation was that the chocolate was all
Yeah.
in
I understand what
open
you're saying. Yeah.
abundance.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so you look at our lives even.
Mm.
I mean, I left the UK because I was not happy with my lot in the UK,
Mm.
and looked for something
Mm.
that was more difficult to get hold of, which
Yeah.
is a different climate, a different way of life, you know. And so I've adapted to this climate and this.
Yeah.
But now that I've got the climate, you get the hot days, and you just wish, that there'd be cold days again. And you start thinking about the UK and think about winter and
Yeah.
Christmas, and all that
Yeah.
rolls around Christmas.
Yeah.
Because here in Brazil, we treat Christmas in a slightly different way,
Yeah. Yes.
uh, you know.
Yeah.
But as here, we treat Christmas in a different way than the UK. But here, the way we
Mm.
treat Christmas is in its abundance. It's all around us, you
Yeah.
know. But the way we treat Christmas in the UK, with it being different,
Yeah.
it's more rare.
Yeah.
So do we yearn for something that we don't have? That is what I think is
Yeah.
the point of this chap, this Philodemus
Yeah.
had on his mind. Somebody suggested that, the last thing that was written down was, "Can I hear thunder?" No, 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 no. And that was just as the volcano was erupting.
Yeah. Yeah. That might be you later. Sorry. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Over
Yeah.
to you.
Okay. Well, all I can say is, mangoes are really, really great fresh. That's what I say, people. And it's very rare to find them in the UK. Nice fresh ones. We have them in abundance in Brazil at certain times of the year.
Yeah.
And do we enjoy them? Yes. Um, Actually, we keep talking about Brazil. Brazil is a wonderful country to consider your later life in, because we have all these great fruits and foods, and it's fresh. And yeah, that's what I say. But yes, we have rice. Right. As to liking chocolate and potatoes, I happen to love potatoes in different various forms. Um, yeah, the funny thing about chocolate, it's naturally addictive anyway. I think it's got some addictive qualities about it. So yes, it makes you crave it. Um, but yes, I understand what you're saying. If something is rare, why do we like gold so much? Because it's rare. What benefit does gold actually bring to our lives? I mean, okay, it has some good uses for different things, but I've got a gold ring on, yeah, my finger, wedding ring. Um, Yeah, it's a cheap gold ring. I would admit that it's got a very little gold content, but it's close enough. But yeah, what benefit does gold actually have in our lives? Yet we want it. Same with diamonds or anything else. They don't really bring us any benefit. It's something we crave, and it's rare. It's a sign of wealth. Roman society, there were certain colours that we can produce quite easily now that were very rare in Roman times for various reasons. Getting the dyes. Yeah, and so if you had I think it was a maroon colour, you were considered very, very affluent. Was it green?
Purple.
Purple. That was it. Yeah, purple. Yeah, if it's purple, yeah, considered very, very showed your affluence. You showed off. I mean, yeah, that was just Roman society. So for a Roman to come up with that, it's quite incredible. Yeah, I think that, and it's like you say, at Christmas and all that. I'm still at the stage in Brazil. I quite like being in Brazil with the modern age, and as you were saying, Steve, of yeah, missing things. If I want to watch a concert from the UK or a Christmas one or something, I can go online and watch it live or almost live now. Yeah. Just so happens I have to catch a couple of good Christmas concerts from Brazil, different things which are quite interesting. So I think overall I never really craved anything. My wife's family call me simple, which when I first heard the term, simple, am I simple? Because we have a slightly different connotation for that. No, it's because I have simple desires.
Basics.
Basics, yeah. My wife laughs about me because we're watching a program on telly, and it was of a couple who basically built a log cabin in the middle of a forest. Yeah. And I said to my wife, could you live like that? And she looks at me and says, I couldn't, but I know you could because you could do things. Or I learn how to do things. Yeah, that would be me. Do we need the latest iPhone, for example? I know it's an old thing. Does it bring us any more benefit? I don't know. I think we buy a mobile phone. I'm without a mobile phone at the moment for various different reasons. My one went wrong. Yeah, I'm using everything on an old PC on a PC, but I found I don't miss it. Time I wanted one. Now, because I've realised I'm stripping back a bit, if you like, going back to as I was almost the 80s. Didn't have the internet in the 80s, almost like this, rethinking my life.
You haven't started wearing those flared trousers again, have you?
Well, they've come back in fashion a bit, some of them, haven't they? I remember having them in the 80s. No, I don't think they're quite me. Very impractical pieces of
They've come back
attire.
they've come back in fashion, but only in the Oxfam shops.
Yeah. Well, actually, I mean, yeah, I mean, we have a lot of retro looks now. You never know. I mean, maybe our podcast will start a trend. Hey, Steve. Yeah. Now, getting back to your AI, the reading, I did see something about this. Yeah, where it's still scrolled, and they managed to. Well, it's very clever technology they use to X-ray. Obviously, the AI has to be programmed, but it looks for patterns. If it finds something that's a bit strange, obviously it takes a human eye to think that's interesting, and it builds up from that. The AI teaches itself that when we flag up probably to an operator or that can't quite get something. But yeah, the technology for us to retrospectively understand things is incredible. I find this fascinating. The thing about Mount Etna, obviously preserving everything, Mount Vesuvius preserving everything, was that it gave us a good overall view of Roman life. Obviously, people's dying moments, with a slightly different impression. Yeah. Yeah, like you said, most of them died peacefully. I mean, yeah, there's rumours about a guy who got in a funny situation posture, but that's been debunked pretty much. Yeah, and the other thing they found was other aspects of Roman life that have been preserved as well, which is being put in the back room in the museum there, I believe, as well. You have to have special permission to go and have a look at access to it. But it gave an insight into people's preferences as well and likes, which are quite shocking even to our modern tastes. So yeah, this is what I find fascinating. We're using modern technology though to actually, if you like, enhance our own knowledge of things if we want it.
To understand better.
Yeah, understand better. I mean, we are taught things in school that are sometimes very sanitized and very basic and everything else to increase our interest in things. And that's what people forget sometimes. When people moan about a Netflix documentary not being quite right about something, it sparks interest. People do more research. We're getting more and more information now. Okay, humans, we've lost so much information that was in the past, like libraries being destroyed. The library at Alexandria, for instance, the library at Lindisfarne, which was burnt by the Vikings, was probably one of the best Google-like things in Europe at the time for knowledge. And yeah, destroyed by ignorance that was, but the Vikings didn't know any better. But all the time, again, we find these wonderful things. It increases our knowledge. Lots of texts from the past, the Dead Sea Scrolls, for example, give us a better insight. There's other things coming all the time. Sometimes it does conflict with wherever. It's a term we use quite recently now, established narratives, but people have always had agendas and narratives as well. And I'm not going to go into that today because we're trying to avoid it. But again, things that challenge this are interesting. Ideas, notions, thinking, sometimes quite progressive, advanced thinking about things. And yes, philosophers were once, if you like, the scientists. Astronomy grew out of astrology, for instance. Astrology is a philosophy. Astronomy is a science that, although we look down on astrology, it came out of, in effect, looking at the stars, trying to understand. Yeah, again, it's all interesting. I mean, the Science Society in UK, in England, didn't start off being called the Science. Was it the Institute they called it? It was the Natural Philosophy Institute. Yeah, because science didn't really exist. But again, we're looking back. These people were thinkers. They were looking at the world, human behavior, which is a science, which has, again, come to the fore quite recently again. How do people react to certain situations? How can you make people react to certain situations? How do you stop, again, the reverse of it, how do you stop people wanting things? Have you ever met anyone who has enough money, who openly tell you, I've got enough money, I don't need any more? I've never heard anyone say that. Even the richest man in the world never says, I've got enough.
Warren Buffett did. He started I think so. He started a small club.
Anyway. Yeah.
He started a small club where he started to give money away. And Bill Gates wanted to be part of this because he wanted to show that he's got a lot of money as well. And so they started giving away vast amounts of money for good causes, you know. But it was short-lived, of course. It was short-lived, giving away the money.
Well,
you're going to get to a point where rich people are going to say, ultra rich, uber rich. People are going to say, you know, when I die, I'm going to give all my money to something, and not to my kids.
Well, fair enough. Yeah. Well, the kids are okay, as it were. But yeah, it's not as though the kids are going to be living on the streets. But yeah. I mean, okay, that's too much money, but they've acquired it, and again, they'll still keep making it, and it goes out somewhere else.